Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be showing off a strategy in Civilization 7 centered around Ibn Battuta, who gains 2 extra wildcard attribute points, and we are going to be showing a strategy that is very, very explosive from the outset, utilizing these wildcard attribute points with the memento gold and sapphire flowers, which gains us 100 food in the capital when you spend an attribute point in the expansionist attribute tree. Since Ibn is going to be getting us wildcard points, we will be able to use that to gain 200 food very, very early, and we will have an extremely explosive start for the capital. This is a game of snowballing, so getting a little bit ahead, in one area early on can often translate into other advantages, and we are going to translate our absolutely massive capital into other advantages. For our second memento, we are going to go Groma for the additional expansionist attribute point, and these expansionist attribute points are going to be quite strong for developing a whole bunch of towns, seizing a bunch of the map, and also getting things off the ground quite quickly. For Age and Civilization, we kind of thought of 2 choices that would seem reasonable. Rome, to utilize the expansionist kind of slots that we're putting in order to ship a whole lot more to the capital, gaining a bunch of extra production and culture and these types of things. We thought that this would be a strong strategy, but what we're going to do is we're going to go with Egypt, and we are going to make sure that we push wonders. We are going to have a really, really strong capital city because it is going to grow so fast, and so pushing wonders in the city, utilizing the Necropolis unique quarter, I think will be solid enough, and so we are going to be doing that. An important thing to note is also going to be the game speed. We are not shifting the game speed all the way down to online in order to make this start look even more explosive than it is. We are going to stick on standard, so the degree to which this run is going to be explosive is going to be, just a standard on standard game speed rather than an accelerated game speed where we would be able to have by turn 3 like a size 7 city or something like this. Instead, we'll stick on standard and show off what we could do, and then of course we will be kicking things up to deity and clicking the launch. So we load in with an absolutely insane start here, being next to 2 cotton, which is going to give +2 production and +2 food when it is slot in as one of our resources in the settlements, and we are going to be able to get this very, very quickly with the strategy we've made for ourselves, where we are going to use the expansionist points and then gain a whole bunch of food in the capital. You can see we're already at 2. We will grow 1 a turn for several turns here because there is a cap. We will go for our production straight away here. We will eventually build over this tile. We are not going to build over this tile, and so we won't put that in quite yet, and we are going to go for a scout. We are going to want to, with this setup here, we have a lot of logging potentials, not too much mining potential, so we're going to want to use the woodcutter line in order to get our production set up here in the early game. We're going to want to scout this navigable river because I think we're going to want to settle it because we get additional bonuses with Egypt on production in navigable rivers, but we are going to grow every turn because you can only grow once a turn, and we have a whole bunch of food just piled up allowing us to grow, and so we are going to grab this cotton here, which is going to give us an additional 2 food and 2 production here in Waset. Already on turn 2 we are at 8/9, which is absolutely bananas. If you take a look here, we are getting this in the capital with the cotton. We are going to choose a tech. Now for the tech, because we know we want to lean into these woodcutters relatively early, I think we're going to go animal husbandry in order to get the saw pit, which is also going to give us extra production on camps and woodcutters, and so our strategy will revolve around utilizing those. We will also gain +1 food in the pastures, which is reasonable. In theory, we could go for pottery because we are going to be forced into having 3 plantations, and we will probably do that next, but we're going to start off with animal husbandry because we're getting so much food. The entire purpose of the food is to get more of other yields. Soup, a little bit of a mistake there. We do want the double scout open, and we will pass the turn here. Ibn is giving us a +1 sight range to all of our scouts, which is going to be useful for us. We're going to come in here, we're going to take a little bit of a look around because we know that we probably want to settle this river here. And we're going to have a couple of choices. We can either go up the river, across the river down here. I think we're going to come down here. We have most of the line of sight above the river, and so look to see what's down here because we do want to settle the river because we get bonuses on it, and also our unique district is going to be better on it per Egypt, and so it makes sense for us to be looking to build our quarter on this because we have adjacencies for desert tiles and we have adjacencies for navigable rivers, and so we're going to want to lock in as much navigable navigable river as we can. Now, for our point here, we can spend 1 point here on the woodcutter, bringing us closer to the cotton, but then what we can do beyond that is we can actually use the granary here to evict the tile or evict the person who is working in the farm by placing it down, moving it to the front of the queue, and then we're not even planning on finishing it, but this does evict the gentleman from there. So you can see here we're on 8-8 in terms of our yields, but now we have another growth. This is the person who was sadly evicted from his home. Big sad, but what we are going to be able to get is we are going to be able to get this flat grassland, and already on turn 3 here, we are having 11 food and 10 production, just absolutely insane, and we are moving quite along here. We're going to pass the turn, and the thing that we're really kind of focused on here is getting chiefdom as quickly as possible, because with Ibn, we will now gain 2 additional wildcard points as soon as we get chiefdom, and so we are going to be wanting to pick up these goody huts so that we can do that. We have the next scout coming out. We'll send this other scout up here because we know that there's a goody hut up there. And we are going to be hoping to roll culture specifically. Now, for this, we should be just about at... We are just on the verge of going to 5 pop where we can make our first settler. So we're going to start work on a warrior with the knowledge that we are not planning on finishing said warrior. Instead, what we are going to do is we're going to put in a scout. We're going to put it at the top of the queue. We're going to complain about the loud car outside. And then we are going to look to grow ourselves. Now, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be building a relatively early sawmill. And so we have a little bit of a choice here in that the sawmill has to go down on the urban district now that an urban district's been placed. We can go here with the understanding that this will eventually be a 1-2 tile, or we can grab this tile here, which will give us a farm, which will give us 3 yields at the outset here, but it is not going to scale quite as well later on. I think we're going to come here with, well... We're going to go for this tile. It's going to give us the production immediately, and it's going to allow us to settle the incense faster. Eventually, we will build over this farm tile and evict them from the farm and look to work specifically the woodcutter tiles. But I do think it's a little bit close. Very nice roll here for us, gaining additional culture up to 4 turns. That is spectacular for us. That is exactly what we wanted. And we are also going to be able to peel off a roll here, and we can choose, again, 45 culture, which is going to allow us to slingshot forward with Ibn, who will give us the marvels of traveling to +2 wildcard attribute points. With these 2 wildcard attribute points, they can be spent on anything. As long as we spend them on expansionists, we will get 100 food in the capital. We'll choose +1 food per age in warehouse buildings and 1 extra population in new towns. And as a result, we will be able to grow the city even more. We will pick up the science, both the 1 science and the 10% science, which is the 10% is really not going to apply too much because it is locally applied. So it's 1.1 science. But we do pick that up there, and then we will also be able to choose a civic here. We're going to choose mysticism, get started on that altar game, and then for our government, we have kind of 2 reasonable choices. We can either choose classical republic with the understanding that we are going to be pushing wonders and culture will be relatively good, or we can go oligarchy, which in my opinion has a lower ceiling and also higher floor. It is very often not going to be, or I think classical republic in a lot of situations is going to be better, but oligarchy, in the situations where classical republic is bad, oligarchy is never going to be bad. So we're going to go with an oligarchy. And what we are going to slot in here, I think, will be the production and science. Look to get a little bit faster on these husbandries, and so that we can start constructing on our saw pits so that we can have an enormous amount of production to complement the enormous amount of growth that we have achieved here in just the first 8 turns of the game. We're already on a size 6 city, and we are with 12 and 12 both food and production. We have a little bit more scouting, and we finish our settler here, and so we wanted to settle on this navigable river to kind of lock it in, and also this navigable river is where a lot of our vision is. We don't really know what's on the other sides of these dates here, and even though dates are absolutely spectacular in the early game, as is something like gypsum, the king is cotton, and we also have an additional cotton over here that we could utilize and slot in, so we do want to found a city next to it. We also know that this city will start at size 2, which is going to be good for us. I think what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, because this city will be able to eventually gain access to 5 resources in the silk which is going to be one of the earlier ones we go for, the cotton, which is going to be the first one we go for, the silver here, extra gold towards producing units, but also good for our overall strategy. Production towards wonders is going to synergize with our build tall and the capital strategy and get things going. And so what we are going to do is we are going to come over here. We also do meet Frederick, which is a little bit concerning. He is Rome, and he is a relatively militaristic leaning AI, and so we are a little bit scared of him. And we have a kind of two choices here. We can either do neutral greeting or we can do a happy greeting. We see that we have 90 influence, and so we would still have 60 influence even after spending this 20, and so we would be able to accept an agreement that he sends us, an endeavor for various resources, and so we are going to hope that he sends us something. I think here we are going to want to do the science investigation. A big part of this is going to be the fact that we want to unlock animal husbandry, so that instead of finishing this warrior, we can go for a saw pit. Now you see here, we did evict the person from their domicile, which locks this in as an urban center we must produce. We can't build over and send this one out, and so what we will do is we will build up on this saw pit, which incidentally is going to give us more yields for production on our wood choppy chops, which we have a couple here, or we are going to have a couple, especially after we build over this wheat farm here. It's going to give +1. We also get +1 from the technology on the tile, which was only giving 1 food before. And so things are ramping up here in Wasat in terms of our production. We are going to go for pottery, largely because we have 3 plantations locked in the capital, and this will give us additional food. And we do not yet have any of these river tiles utilized, although we will be going for that pretty soon here. We get this as well. We could get 20 food in the New Year settlement, and that's the only thing we get, and so we will go with that. On the follow-up turn here, we do get the diplomatic action being received from Frederick, so it's good that we had 60 available. We are going to choose support, gaining an additional 50% of science on top of what we were having before. And as far as our scouting goes, we know these dates are going to be really valuable really early on. The gypsum's also going to be valuable, so maybe a settle in here is going to be reasonable, but what we're going to do is we are going to look a little bit closer with the scout, trying to see our way around this. And we also see sheep giving +2 production, +2 happiness, so definitely something in here would be quite strong. We have biases towards desert tiles, and so we will look to scout this out down here. We get an additional goodie hut. We can gain the earliest available technology. This one is a little bit of a die roll here. We are either going to get 4 turns worth of research on pottery, which is a decent amount, but we've already progressed on it, or we're going to get sailing at the expense of 50 gold. This is, I think, worth it, because 4 turns, even this, is going to be more science than the gold. I think gold's worth less than science, and so this would be worth it. Alternatively, the opportunity cost isn't really 50 gold, it's actually 100 gold, because we are giving up this additional 50 gold. Is it worth it then? I think it's barely not worth it if we hit pottery, and super worth it if we hit sailing, so we'll pay for it. We do get the pottery. It is a little bit unfortunate, but we will go for the sailing as well. Early up will be also for us irrigation, because we are going to get to that settlement limit pretty quickly, looking to do additional settlers after we finish this saw pit here. We will peel off another turn and see what is over here. Really excited to be able to find, hopefully, a really nice settle, maybe a little further south. We see rivers. If there's another navigable river there, that will be fantastic. We also see a pair of, cotton here, or not cotton, these are goats, they're sheep, whatever this resource is called. What is this resource? It's called wool. This is going to be giving us it's one of the family of +2/+2 resources that are extremely strong in the early game. Now, with our scout, we're going to come down here, and we are going to search again, I think. We actually won't see what's on the other side of the rocks, so let's just walk down, walk to the other side, and then search here. We do see our scouts are kind of converging, which is not ideal. I think what we will do is we will send this scout back up this way and look to get those goodie huts, having kind of maybe not planned this out as well as we should have, knowing that we were moving down into the dates here. They say more dates, more fun. We will get more dates, and we will look to accept his agreement Unfortunately, we don't have the plus 60. If we had more, we could have accepted another agreement, and we will get to found our second city here and do a little bit of shenanigans. Now, we know that we're going to want to have a fairly early key. I think we're going to want the key here, and so because of that, what we are going to do is hire more guards, probably. 25% production towards producing medj, or plus 100 culture is a little bit of a choice. That's going to give us access to our altar right away, though. So I think that we're going to come in and do the science, and now we will have access to our altar. Although I think what we are going to be doing is still producing an additional settler. But for this, we are going to be picking up this tile, not this tile, as we work our way over to the cotton. We'll then just pick the tile that's next to the cotton and leads into the cotton, and on our next growth in 8 turns, we will be able to slot in a third cotton into the capital. So we have here our pantheon choice. I kind of think that God of the Sun is just the best option because it is really hard to beat getting plus 6 yields just at base value. You know, for God of the Sea, you have to have 6 plus fishing boats to make use of it. Although production is more valuable than gold and food, it is difficult to defeat or beat the floor of God of the Sun, which is so good. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to choose between Monument to the Gods here, you know, in terms of synergizing with our strategy, which gives plus 10% production towards constructing wonders in cities with an altar, and also fertility rights in cities with an altar. I think fertility rights probably has the higher floor, and so we are going to go with that and experiment with that, which should help us a little bit here. Now, we do receive a narrative choice. We are no longer needing to push culture super hard. We do want to push for celebrations a little bit, and so I think that we are going to be inclined to, especially with the amount of happiness this is giving, choose that for our choice. For our Civic, we are going to be coming in for the mastery on mysticism, looking to get the social policy that gives plus 2 food on all settlements. In terms of helping us in an immediate sense, I do think that that is the most helpful thing, although we would be happy to get our unique buildings starting to get going. But we are going to be pushing here for settling in 4 cities as quickly as possible. Once we go irrigation as well, which will give us an additional settlement slot, after which point we can look to improve these settles. We will get this guy here. We will take a look around at where we have discovered barbs. We know that there are barbs down here, or an independent city, and so we might want to move our warrior that way. I think what we're going to do is we're going to search this pocket of area, which is going to be difficult for us to reveal with where our scouts are going. We have another scout doubling back here, and with the guy who doubles back, he will miss this spot here in terms of the vision, and having vision on that pocket will be quite nice. We're coming down here looking to see, okay, that is some news. So we're going to come here. We could look around, but we're not going to be able to see exactly what we want to see, and so now we are faced with a little bit of a choice where we probably want to disperse this reasonably early. We're going to see what's behind here and whether or not we want to settle up here or maybe down here, and if we want to settle down here, they are going to get in the way of it in terms of where they are positioned, which is going to interfere with us. But also, leaving them on the map early on does prevent us from getting settled near. Now, we don't have many opportunities for mines, so a brickyard isn't going to cut it, really. We could go for our altar, which will give us additional growth. This would certainly be reasonable, as would building another settler, which I think is what we're going to go for. We're just going to build up the settlers until we are at our settlement limit, but then building an altar, for example, over this farm is going to be great because we will be able to pick up another wood camp. In fact, we can actually set that up now. We are going to place the altar here, and what this will do is the altar will also gain adjacency bonuses towards wonders, and we have to think to ourselves, are we going to build a lot of wonders in a circle around here? I don't think that that's necessarily the case, so we're actually going to place the granary, and we are going to kick it to the top, which will evict the person, and then we are going to cancel the granary. We're not going to build that, we're not about that, but now we will get to swap on over to a different tile, and we are going to pick up this chop tile, giving us 2 production of food and a happiness, which is going to be good for us. We have growth in 2 turns, and if once we eventually do place the altar, I'm thinking here might be better. where we are going to have 3 tiles that could reasonably be a wonder, whereas over here we kind of only have 2 tiles that could reasonably be a wonder if we want to keep working these woodcutter tiles. So we are going to come on over, we reveal one more, and we see shebang, shebang, it's a cotton. Now let's take a little bit of a look at the settler map mode, because we can work this cotton if we are here. And if we are here, we will have access to, we will have a little bit of overlap, just slightly with Wasset if we settle right here, but we will eventually gain access to sheep, dates, cotton, also the wine, the silver, and the other dates over here. And this is a whopping 4 +2/+2 tiles or resources. That's an insane amount. That is quite strong. And so I think that we probably settle over here, and so we have to be a little bit leery about those guys there in terms of, you know, we're probably going to have to disperse this camp at some point, or either that or friend them up, but we don't really have an advantage or a synergy towards producing a lot of Diplo, and we want to play nice with Frederick. If we play nice with Frederick, accepting a lot of his agreements, it's going to be harder for us to deal with this. And so maybe we're in a little bit of a kind of squeeze type of spot. We're going to take a little bit of search down here, and we are probably going to send a scout out and over to the right. And we will be building probably a couple more warriors. We can buy warriors as well, or float the gold in order to be able to deal with this. We do have a little bit of a discount on purchasing. And maybe it was a little bit of a mistake for us to go for the fishing boat this early, but I think we're going to, you know, take a peek at a couple more things. Ibn bonus is really kind of coming in quite nicely when we are scouting with our warrior here, because we do get +1 sight for all units, and not just the people who are scouts. And so we are going to be able to come in over here. We're going to have to keep an eye on things. Let's take a look at our narrative choice. We do have something that will give us +1 migrant. This growth is way more valuable then meeting all the +25 thing. We will get the migrant here, and we have a little bit of a choice. We could either settle him up in the capital. I've been told that this doesn't count towards the food requirement, in which case the settle here would be better, but if it does count towards the food requirement, we'd much rather have it in Kamenu, because we would be able to make use of more resources and try and pull in some of these things as we expand, or even the future city, which is going to have access to all of these tiles over here. So I think that maybe we do that, and we also have a little bit of consideration regarding our gold, in that we can save up the gold for turning something into a city. I think this would be reasonable. So the +75 influence is an interesting option, because we could try and city-state one of these guys. I don't think we would want to turn this city-state into an eventual city, because it would be kind of stepping on the toes of a city if we were to settle it up here. And because of that, I don't think we want to Suze them. We could Suze something down here. This would maybe be reasonable, but I think we're going to go with the extra codex, which is going to help us along for our science progression, for our legacy paths as well, because eventually we do need to try and get up to 10 codices. We get a growth on the city, and now we have a bit of an option. And also, we are starting to see, hey, our key is giving decent yields as we expected. This is a +5 versus, you know, a +3 off of the production on some of this. We do value production a little bit higher, but do we value it that much higher? I mean, this is a +4, but is lacking in the food department. I think that this is probably an okay enough tile to work. This is maybe a little bit of a tough choice in terms of, is it worth it giving up 1 food in order to swap a food over to a production? I think it's probably not, so we'll take and work that tile there, and we will look to scout around with this guy, looking for more goodie huts, but this is going to be an absolutely fantastic city once we settle it up right on top of this oasis. We do get spotted by Hatshepsut here. I think that we have a little bit of an interesting decision point, whether or not we go friendly or neutral. I think she's very likely to get upset with us for building more wonders than her. +20 relationship. Overall, this seems like a relatively low cost in terms of influence, but it's a painful cost to pay early on. I think we're going to pay it. Just generally speaking, I think going to war in the early game is less worth it, but we are going to kind of keep things going smoothly, and we can tell, I believe, that she doesn't have have a town, because we have a town and we're eligible for a farmer's market, and these guys, we cannot send them a farmer's market. So this implies to me that they are still on one city. We do have her over here, and so I think she's probably closer to the barb camp than we are. I think we're going to double back with this warrior and just look to keep things nice and smooth in case the Zero ball starts moving on towards us. I think that this could significantly interfere with the run, so we're going to keep an eye on it. We also are assuming kind of here that they'll... Ooh, that's where the city-state is. This is why you travel one tile at a time. We will be able to pick up that there, but hopefully he doesn't come out and whack us. But that is also quite close to us as well, breathing down our throats a little bit, and so... breathing down our neck a little bit. Here we will be able to... This is unfortunate. We were hoping not to be met with this sort of aggression this early on. I think we're going to click accept because that's the only thing we can click. And for our production, I am inclined to finish this granary, or we can either finish this granary, we can go for a slinger, or we can go for... finish granary, go for slinger, or go for the other additional settler. We currently don't have an extra settlement limit, and we're about 10 turns out from the settlement limit, and we could just roll with it anyways and build over and decrease the happiness, but I don't think we want to quite do this, and I do think we are in a bit of a situation where we need to start dispersing some of these barbs, and so maybe the slinger makes a bit of sense here. Go for a little bit of a ranged unit, and then we will also continue on scouting, but once our warrior comes back, we will be able to go for this barb camp, but this one seems even closer, to be honest. We can disperse it. Maybe Hatshepsut is happy if we disperse it. We see that she is over here, and so maybe we bring on the warrior over here in this direction instead, knowing that I think that this guy, this city is much further, and so in terms of prioritization, we'd want to deal with that first. We could also settle one over and be a little bit further from the cotton, but we would be right on top of both the wool and the dates for our first two grabs, which I think is probably solid enough, and then we would step on the toes of Wasset just a little bit less. Where we are here, we will have some overlap on this tile and this tile. That's overall just not a lot of overlap, though. I think that's probably fine enough. And do we get anything really from settling over one more? And I mean, we get more river tiles, which is good for us. We could even settle down a little bit and move towards some of these resources, but I think that it's not worth picking up the marble, even though it would help us for making wonders. It's not worth picking up the marble. I think we're going to go here, even though we lose on two overlapping tiles, and we will see a little bit of combat head our way. We are still going to try and pick that up there, and we get our first celebration. We are not currently building buildings, although we could be building buildings after this slinger. We have enough gold where if we need an additional unit, we can buy an additional unit, and I think that buildings would probably be okay from here. Let's just see and make sure that we have kind of 10 turns worth of buildings to build, which I'm a little bit uncertain of. We have a granary and we have an altar, so we have at least 9 turns worth of buildings, right? Once or 10 turns, but it's going to be significantly decreased because we're going to be getting extra production. We can't go brickyard in the capital, and what we have coming with irrigation is going to be a garden, which we will be able to build kind of early on. That's not necessarily going to be the most useful building, but it will be solid enough. We could also go for the potential to be able to build another building. It's maybe a little bit unfortunate that we are not currently going for the Civic for one of these, because we would want to build one of those. I think that right now the production will be worth it. And so we're going to go with that, and we will also go for culture in the palace here. A little bit better than 4 gold a turn, but we are going to be coming up pretty soon on not wanting the palace yields. We are defenseless, but that's okay. Except it's not, but it is. But it's not, but, you know, it do be what it is. We are seeing that we are not really getting too many more goody huts left with our scouts. I think we're going to come back this way with hopes of finding a navigable river that we can maybe settle, but for the most part we are going to be focused on eventually dispersing these camps. And then for our decision here point, you see that now it only takes 7 turns to build all the buildings. We have 6 turns on that, so we will be able to make use of the additional construction bonus for the celebration. Ooh, I was not anticipating this. Oh, no, wait. Okay, we build the granary here, and then we can build the altar here. That's right. We cannot build up a new urban district while you have an urban district that is unfilled, and so we will put the granary there, and it will be done in 3 turns, and we will be growing quite quickly, and we get finally our cotton yield off of our new city, which is going to get slot in immediately. Oops. Which is going to get slot in immediately. That's not the one we talked about, which is going to get slot in immediately here, but we are going to want to move it and make sure that it is in the capital. So now we are on 20 food and 19 production, and so things are going quite well. Turn 21, pretty good rate to be already having these yields here in the capital, and we are looking at founding an additional city right here. I think that 2 tiles of overlap is not too bad. We won't have wasted tiles in between in the long run, but here we will get to immediately resettle here and grow the population up a bit. Now, the population was at 3 before we clicked resettle, so let's see what we get. Also, we will have a lot of mining yields here, so this is going to be eventually good for us, but we will be able to go 1. Why can't we click another one? Okay, grow city. We do see it does add to the population immediately, but we're going to be able to pick this up and also pick this up, which is going to be fantastic. We see that there is a little bit of Frederick over there, and that's maybe a little bit of a cause for concern, and maybe that changes who we prioritize in terms of our sending. I think we'll actually send this guy back. Well, we have enough gold to buy a unit. He's denounced us already, but we don't have bad relations with him yet. Maybe we will have time to put down a Sir, and then bring our forces over here, and then keep most of our guys next to Frederick, which is going to be, I think, the way in which we want to do the choice. I think that we want to push our celebration more than we want to push the gold, but the gold is a little bit more flexible if Frederick declares war on us. I think it'll be a little bit safer, and now we will slot out the science one, I think. Well, food and happiness are going to be the ones that are a little bit better to not have in the capital. I think what we're going to do is we're going to slot things around so that we grow our towns a little bit faster, and then we will put the production and happiness in the capital. And then we will be gaining gold. It's not as useful to transmute the production into gold, but it's not the end of the world. The dates getting the happiness here is certainly going to be just fine, but these will grow a little bit faster, and we will soon be able to also slot in a card that will give each of them +2 food, so an additional +6 food in total for our empire here. I think we are inclined to move this guy away from the enemies. We do see that the goody hut that we were going for does get picked up, but we're just going to kind of come around the coast here, look to avoid these guys. We do see that they have the additional warrior, which is not quite so good, but our warriors, is important to kind of note, are extra good on defense, and so if Frederick declares on us, this is not the end of the world. +3 combat strength in friendly territory, doubled when stationed in a settlement you own, and so this will make defense a little bit easier for us. We do discover Uluru with our scout over here in the far area. We see +6 happiness per age, +2 culture on desert terrain in the settlement. Really going to be something we want to pick up, especially because we have rewards for desert with our unique building in this age. I think we're going to buy a Magi over here. We're kind of crimped on several different things we want to spend our gold on, but I do think Frederick, breathing down our neck a little bit, it does make us want to buy a few military units, especially because of our celebration, we want to be pushing buildings in order to make the best use out of it, and we also are about to get an additional settler slot, so the settler's the next thing we're wanting to produce, but we're going to buy it more towards a Sir rather than Frederick in the hope that we can set that down. We also get Swords of the Shining Land event. At the borders live the fierce Magi people, elite warriors who live as nomads. They would be formidable foes, but it seems that their intention is peaceful collaboration and service. We do like that. Notably, they also don't have unit maintenance. We can get extra production towards training Magi, and that will give a quest or a militaristic attribute point. Dispersed in a pound of power within 15 turns for that. 5 Magi within 20 turns. I think if we have 5 Magi, we're not going to be really looking to produce Magi, and so we're going to go with this option here, and we are going to be starting to work down a Sur, which is going to free us up to move on over to the right and keep an eye on Frederick in terms of our military forces. if they're not going to come at us, I think they come at us here and attack the guy. Really bad timing on that flood, unfortunately, right as we're crossing the river. But we are going to be able to make use of +2 food in all settlements. And also, I think now that we have 3 settlements, we are going to go with the gold in all settlements as well. The Magi gets really badly hurt here. I think what we're going to do is we're going to come back here and heal, and we're going to body block with our slinger, which is certainly not ideal, but I think that we'll be able to get enough damage down with our slinger and take him out, and then the Magi will be able to move over. We do get also the discovery of Lafayette, which is the final person here. S'il vous plaît, yes indeed, and we will greet him in a friendly fashion, knowing that things are kind of looking a little bit like we might have to go to war. Now we are going to look at each of these guys, and we will see that he has denounced us, so we can't do agreements with him categorically, but Hatshepsut now eligible on the farmer's market, and if we send this out, we will still be able to accept an endeavor from Lafayette, because we will have an additional 60 influence. So I think we're going to go with farmer's market, and now in each of these towns we will be receiving +4 food. We will be receiving some from the social policy slot that we have in terms of the yields, but also we will be receiving we'll be receiving 2 from clan networks, or sorry, 3 from farmers market. I think he accepted, and then 2 from our social policy clan networks. So a full 5 of the 9 that we are getting in this town is coming from stuff other than the town, and this is going to help us to grow a little bit faster. We will also be receiving this here, getting a whopping 13 food, which is going to allow us to develop both of these towns quite a bit faster. Currently, the cost of turning them into a city is 550 and also a 500 respectively, and so if we get these towns up a little bit more, turning them into a city relatively early would be nice for us. For this, I think on our Egyptian civics, we have the choice. I think what we want is we want a unique building, and we have the choices between the 2. The Magi generate 1 gold when stationed in a settlement you own. I kind of like the sound of that, and also +1 on navigable rivers, but which one of these Mortuary Temple and the Matsaba are going to be better early on? We have a ton of desert tiles, and so I think that we would be able to get quite a bit of gold out of this, in addition to gaining a bit of culture. This will be good for us. We are trailing in technology. We're also trailing in civics currently, so we are getting abused a little bit by the additional yields of the deity AI, but as far as things go, from an expansion standpoint, we are picking up some really, really strong cities. We do want to settle on this wonder. I think we want to settle here. I think this would upset the dear Frederick, but I think Frederick's upset either way, and what we really want is we want camels. We currently only have 1 city, and we have too many resources to slot into the city, and so this is preventing us from doing stuff. Also, we do want to make sure we purchase some repairs on our stuff so that we can get working right away, especially because that does free up the resource, or return the resource to this town. Again, we have 5 food coming into this town from our social policy, as well as our agreement, and then an additional 2 for a total of 7 coming into this town that is not from the town's yields itself. So the town is getting to grow quite quickly. There's also maybe a world where we would want to buy altars for ourselves in these towns in order to grow them fast enough, although I think it only applies to cities, actually. Our pantheon, I believe it said cities, plus 10% growth in cities. We do get a very nice cultural exchange offer from Hatshepsut, really starting to fall behind in yields. Definitely regretting not going for the altar. That would have helped us out a little bit in the science and the culture, rather than the growth altar we have here. Also decided to go for the garden. We were continuing our celebration. It just ended. We have another one in 7 turns, but this is going to allow us to kick up and grow quite a lot in Waset. And we're also keeping this gold behind, but we see what's going on here, and the fact that he is already unfriendly, and so things are likely to kind of start swinging not our way as much. We are going to spend some money on a Magi in here, pick that up, considering that there is a barb at the gates, while we try and wrap up over here what is going on. We already shot him with the slinger. We're going to take a couple whacks, look to heal these guys up, and then push in on Assur, and so this shouldn't be too difficult on the AI here. although kind of wishing that we had a general. So it's perhaps the case that we should have gone for discipline a little bit earlier than we did. Things are coming along much faster now that we have an agreement with Hatshepsut. And also for here, we could go Hanging Gardens. I think what we're going to do is we want to push the settlers because we now have a limit of 4, but not exactly sure where we want to put this settler. We would want to settle just right here. Gain access to this wonder, pretty strong. Push the camels, push this, and lock Frederick out of as much resources as possible. And maybe this is what we do, but this is a bit of a vibe here in the middle there. So a narrative event in the capital did give us an additional Magi. I think what we're going to do is we're going to move him to the outskirts of Wasset, but not move him out and let the Barbs engage on us and look to whittle down their numbers. Notably, Frederick is helping us out a little bit. We also move out of the town because we did spot a settler, and so we're going to look to body block allow the Barbs and Indies to kill the settler with the hopes that we get a better settle off. We're one turn away from our settle ourselves, and very tempted to just greed this one. I think that if he settles down here, obviously we can't, but this tile just looks absolutely insane if we can get the camels, because this will allow us to put 2 more of these +2/+2 resources in the capital and really crank things up, and so that'll be good for us. Speaking of, we are going to grab the cotton. Unfortunately, we will no longer be able to slot everything in, but by far the worst of it is going to be that, which is only giving us a 0.3 of a yield, and so we will put in food and production into the capital here, which is going to be quite nice. You know, we're only 34 turns in, we have a size 11, about to be 12 capital, and we have yields of 31-21, which is spectacular, on top of, you know, we're about to have 4 cities. Now, our disadvantages were behind in both science and culture, but I think that this is fine enough. We're also scouting up here, looking for anything. Really happy to see Hatshepsut settling away from us, because we hate when they settle behind us and we tear our hair out because the border gore, but we are going to be able to march on Assur here and whittle them down with this slinger, and they won't be able to engage, and so Assur is not long for this world, and then we will be able to turn our attention back over towards where Frederick is at. Really hoping to get this though, because we have river bonuses, specifically navigable rivers. In terms of our overall role for this continent, we don't really have too much in the way of navigable rivers, and Maste did kind of snag the other navigable river that was near us, so this is a bit unfortunate, but we are going to be able to get a lot out of the places that we settle along desert. Not really sure where the next settle after this one down here is, though. I suppose if things start going really south, there is maybe an argument towards going after this iron for the extra combat strength, but I don't think that'll be necessary to handle Frederick, especially if he's going to utilize his units so much to fight these barbarians. So we are going to make a bit of a decision here and going for the Hanging Gardens. Now, the Hanging Gardens, we're not going to get a lot out of the +1 food on farms in this settlement, because we're not planning on having a lot of farms in the settlement, so overall this is going to be underwhelming, but +10% growth rate in capital is going to be fantastic, and the extra attribute, expansion attribute point, is going to be particularly good with what we have slot in as our mementos right now, because of course, recall, this is going to give us +100 gold, or sorry, +100 food in the capital, which, to be fair, by now is very heavily diluted. The entire purpose of this strategy is to establish a ton of momentum and get things rolling really fast. We got the cotton really fast, we were able to build settlers really fast, and the idea is snowballing. 100 food for us now doesn't represent a lot. Our memento, in terms of its power level, is basically entirely fallen off, but we still will get a little bit of synergy. It'll give us +3 turns towards going to, you know, population 12, but also, you know, we will gain the full benefit of actually having the expansionist attribute point, which if we come in here and take a look at what we're likely to get, we're going to come down here and get 15% on yields in towns with specialization, 30% in distant lands. This is going to be quite nice, but this plus of food in cities per town is quite strong, as is settlement limit, and we might even be picking up those this age if we get any sort of expansionist points through other means. So things are spicing up here quite a bit, as we see an army has been deployed on behalf of these guys, but at the same time, we are just now able to convert this into a city, and we kind of want to do that. little bit of a yikes, a little bit uncomfortable in terms of the decision making here. I think that Dear Frederick's units are actually going to prove useful for us overall, and we see that he is very likely to lose a settler here. We hope he loses a settler, but we will enter our celebration. Now, I think that we will want to go for the 20% food for 10 turns here. I do not believe that the production towards buildings counts for wonders, although I'm not 100% sure in that regard, and so we will go for that, considering we're working on a wonder in our primary city. I think we will take the science in the palace, or let's push the culture. This will give us more potential to build new buildings as a kind of time evolves, and we are going to risky to get the bisky and convert this into a city. Doing this will unlock the production that we have in the city, but also, very importantly, it will unlock another slot for us here. So what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that production is in the city rather than the town. I think we're going to bring over some food. The food is effectively more valuable in Jeannette because it requires less food to grow an additional level than it does in the capital, and in the capital we will be able to slot this in. We will get the Silk Road's progress here as well for the legacy path, but also we get to get the 0.3 science, which we were missing out on before. We have 10 more turns on our celebration, and we will also be getting additional pop growth in Jeannette because of our pantheon. Ooh, actually no, we won't, because we don't have an altar yet. We could build an altar. This is reasonable, but I think what we're going to be looking to build is going to be a brickyard, mainly because we have so much mining potential here overall in the city, and I think that we're going to be leaning into that. We have a mine here, we are going to have a mine here eventually. We do have some logging, but I think we will end up building over the logging and instead lean into a combination of mines and farms, you know, kind of to get things going. And so I think we are going to build over this here in order to unlock this mine as well. Although we can't use that because someone's sitting on top of it. We can grab this one though, or we could grab this here in order to move our way over towards getting the dates here as well. So after a bit of reflection and looking around, we are going to be able to get clay pits, which utilize the mine's buildings in several tiles here. So I think what we're going to want to do is build over all of our woodcutter slots, and then use the slots that are more dedicated towards farms, or would be building farms. We're going to use these more for our buildings. Also, in terms of desert adjacencies, we do see what looks like a lot of desert around here in a circle, which is going to make this tile just excellent for our unique building, which gives desert adjacencies. And so with all that in mind, I think building over this woodcutter tile makes a lot of sense, and if we're doing it, we're building a brickyard, really establish a lot of construction here, and then this will refund and allow us to grow. Now, we can't put the growth here on the iron mine, which is where we would really want it, just quite yet, but what we could do is we could put it over here, and this would give us gold towards purchasing units, which I think is something that we might value in the near future, and we can't make use of the dates right now anyways because we don't have enough slots, so we're gonna go with that. Well, it's finally arrived, war from Frederick here, which is not ideal given how we have decided to spend some of our resources. Magi's will generate +1 gold when stationed in a settlement. We will gain an extra production towards wonders with the social policy, which we will slot in right away here, which is going to be fantastic for us considering we're working on the Hanging Gardens, and we maybe now need to rethink some things. Or maybe, oh, we definitely can't settle over here unless we take Neapolis and burn it to the ground. So we will need to find a new settlement slot, and things have shaken up quite a bit. We were planning on playing to turn 40, but I think that this is maybe going to be the final little turn we take in terms of taking a look at stuff, and we look to have a battle with Dear Frederick in the next session here. So let's see what we have in terms of this event. I think we'll take the happiness. We would like another slot for our civics, and we will look to go for discipline, which will give us our general. We don't have a general currently. We would love a first general, and so discipline is going to be the way to go. For our production, what we are going to slot in, did we finish this, or is there a unit standing there that's preventing us from building it? There's a unit that's standing there that's preventing us from finishing that, but we do have this, which we were working towards, the Matsaba, which gives a +1 gold for each adjacent desert tile. This is what we were talking talking about. This has 6 adjacent desert tiles. Absolutely fantastic. Also for adjacent wonders. And so we're going to put that right down here. And we know this is something that we want to work on. Just the question for us is, do we really want to swap towards building units? And I think that the fact that we have this discount on the desert and the fact that we're going to need to buy a bunch of units, we think, and now they're quite a bit less expensive, moving from 120 to 60, I think we're going to be able to push these. We don't have a slinger over here. We're probably going to look to have a 2-to-1 ratio of Magi's to slinger. We have 2-to-1 here and 2-to-1 here, so we're going to hope to get things squared away so that we can defend against Frederick here. Maybe looking to sack Neapolis, and maybe looking to yeah, once we sack Neapolis, we could found a city where we wanted before. We could even take Neapolis. It's not in that bad of a location, being able to hit the camels, and also this over here on top of being able to hit the gold, but it misses both the cavalry for the pasture on the horses and the additional production towards wonders that we would get off the marble here if we were able to settle right here on this desert tile, which is where we were looking to get before. After an explosive start, I think we are going to wrap up this episode here, but we're just going to take a look at what's going on in the world and how things are faring. We do have, of course, the war with Frederick and also this Barb camp coming in, really hoping that these two fight each other, but we're going to have to make several adjustments in the next episode in order to address this, because I think that we're a little bit under-armored, but if we kind of compare our power level to the AI, they are getting increased yields because we're on deity. This is the strongest they'll ever be in relation to us, and we see that we have a 12 pop, a 6 pop, and a 6 pop, and also we are sitting on 2 cities in terms of what's going on with a settler to make a 4th settlement / 2nd town for ourselves. And if we take a look at what's going on with the AI, we see that Roma is size 9, which is way less food than a size 12 because it increases the cost. It's non-linear with increasing population, the demands of food. We see Neapolis is a 2, Ostia is a 4, and Ravida is a 3. Notably, he does have 4 settlements, but none of them are a city on top of this, although he is going to have more units behind. And then if we take a look at Hatshepsut, which we can also kind of see, we see she is on a size 10 city, which is about to grow to a size 11, so she is quite close to us in terms of how built up her initial city is, but she just has 2 settlements, which are quite a bit smaller. We are gaining quite a bit of an advantage out of our expansionist attribute slot. When it comes to expanding out, we notably are getting an additional pop on the towns, which is helping us to expand out with them. Also, food per age on warehouse buildings is going to be useful as we start to get more of those in, and this additional expansionist spot is going to be particularly useful. Just a little bit of a reminder how we, executed this strategy at the beginning is we gained extra expansionist attribute points. We have Ibn, who gives us extra expansionist parts for the first Civic we research, and we leverage this into gold and sapphire flowers to get 300 food in the capital to kick things off and to put us in really good shape. Also, we rolled a really nice start here with a bunch of the 2/2 resources, which we have slot in a whole bunch of spots, which are enabling us to really throttle stuff up. We see that the capital is 3720, which is very strong for this kind of turn in the game, and we have +2, +4 in a whole bunch of different spots now, with a total of, what is this, 3, 6, 9, not 9, but 3, 6. We have 6 of these +2, +2s, which are enabling us to really be quite powerful. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Do the YouTube algorithm stuff. It's always helps. And other than that, have a good one.